Hey guys, Brett here. I have a new updated deck profile, my Supreme King Zark. I've been working tirelessly trying to perfect it, and I think I'm getting close. Anyway, check this out. First, you run 3 Supreme Gate Magicians. This card has the ability, once in the Pendulum Zone, you can destroy it, and then place a different Supreme King Gate monster from your deck or hand actually, into the Pendulum Zone. This is why we run Supreme King Gate 0, because it's skill 0, and unlike 13, it's actually usable. Anyway, its other effect, if you have a Supreme King Gate monster in your Pendulum Zone other than Magician, and if you have a still one of the Dimensional Dragons in your extra deck, or one in your hand because of Odd-Eyes Pendulum Dragon, you can send it to the graveyard, special summon this. You can only use each of these effects once per turn. Speaking of Pendulum Dragon, I run 3 Double Iris Magicians. This card's just in here because of the scale 8, and it search out the Astrograph cards. Pendulum Graph cards, sorry. Anyway. The main searcher of the deck, the Stratus, before Pal, Skullcrobat Joker, which lets to, on normal summon, search out any Magician, Perform Pal, or Odd Eyes monster. That's pretty much all you use it for. Of course, if you use it as a scale, it restricts you to Pendulum Summon only Magician, Perform Pal, and Odd Eyes monsters. And as you may know, this is a Zark deck, meaning we don't run a lot of those variants. Anyway, for more consistency, I've put 3 Wisdom Eye Magician to help us search out any other Magician cards. If this card's in your scale and the other scale has a Magician card in it, you can destroy this card and replace it with a different Magician card from your deck. So say you destroy this, you search out this card. Next up, 3 Supreme King Dragon Dark Worms. This card has the cool ability, when summoned, lets you search out a Supreme King Gate monster. As well, if it's in the graveyard and you have control no monsters, you can activate its ability, special summon it. You can only use both those effects once per turn. And pretty much those are the only effects you ever use on this thing. Next, I run 2 Supreme King Dragon Lightworm. This card is insane. First off, if you control Supreme King Dragon Zark, you can special summon this card from your Pendulum Zone. And on summon, it lets you recycle one of your face-up cards in your extra deck, one of your face-up pendulums, add it back to your hand, and then you can immediately synchro or exceed summon with it. Next up, we got 2 Harmonizing Magician. If you're not running this, I don't know what you're doing. Harmonizing is just a scale 8, but most of the time you summon it to get into your bigger synchro monsters, because when it's special summoned, you get to search out from your deck and special summon another Magician from your deck. But its effects when to get it, and it's banished when it leaves the field. Next up, I run 1 Purple Poison Magician. This card's in there as a target for Harmonizing, as well as a way to get through Anti-Spell. And we got one of my favorite magicians, Perform Pal Celestial Magician, which is basically the Magician version of Zark. This card is insane. First off, if you control Fusion, Synchro, or Exceed monster that happens to be destroyed, you can destroy this card and bring that monster back. Next, its other ability actually varies depending on what you have out. Check this out. I don't remember off by heart because there's only like 2 abilities you're ever going to use. And that's the Synchro and Pendulum ability, but I'm going to read them all off to you. If there's a Fusion on the board, this card can attack directly. Synchro, your opponent can activate monster effects. Exceeds, this card's attack points double, and Pendulum, you search a Pendulum monster from deck to hand at the end phase. Next, Oath Dragon Magician. This is the one you primarily summon first off of Harmonizing. Next up, Astrograph Sorcerer. Because this is a Zark deck, and this card really helps out with your Link and Seize plays. 1 Supreme King Gate 0. This card is insane. I love it. Once in the zone and you have Zark out, you literally take no damage. That is insane. And finally, we got Odd Eyes Pendulum Dragon. And this is the quarter century rarity. And for the final monster, and this is also a card I used to summon for Zark. Anyway, for the final monster, I run 3 Ash Blossom and Joy Springs. That's it for the monsters. Now on to spell cards. There's not a lot of spells or traps because most of the deck is taken up by monsters. But here goes. First we got Wings of Light. This card is insane, and effects vary if you have Zark out on the field or not. If you don't, it lets you add a Supreme King Dragon or Gate monster from deck to hand. But if Zark is out on the board, it lets you special summon them instead. Well, it gives you the option. You don't really have to, but it's good. It's nice to have the option. Next up, I run 2 Dragon Shrines and 1 Foolish Burial. These cards in the deck to send Supreme King Dragon Darkborn from deck to grave to help get the combo started. And then later on through the match, they're just pretty much deck thinners. For the final spell, 1-star Pendulum Graph. Once per turn, if a Magician monster leaves the field by any means, you can actually search another Magician from your deck and add it to your hand. So it helps you to like rebuild resources and stuff. That's it for the spells. For the traps, I run 3 Infinite Impermanence. Star Pendulum Graph, which honestly is insane, especially when in conjunction with Star Pendulum Graph. With time, Pendulum Graph, basically you target 1 Magician monster and 1 other monster your opponent controls, I believe, or on the board, I forget which. Anyway, they're both destroyed. And when a Magician monster leaves the field, you get a search off this. Now, keep in mind, if one of the cards is not destroyed, this card sends another card from the field to the graveyard. So say if you're battling against a card that can't be destroyed by a card effect, you target it, boom, it stays out. And since one of the 2 cards still remains on the board, you can send another card to the graveyard, so you still get rid of it. And the best part about these cards, they come with a bonus effect. This one protects your Magician monsters from spells or effects. This one protects them from traps or effects. Anyway, for the final card, Soul of the Supreme Celestial King, because we want to get Zark out. This lets you fusion summon Zark by banishing the materials requested on it. Now, Zark's effects are negated unless you specifically have the 4-dimensional dragons banished, such as Fusion, Xyz, Synchro, and Pendulum. Now, say, for example, one second. Say, for example, this card. This card is already banished by the time I activate it. Okay, that's fine. You then instead banish a Supreme King Dragon Darkborn for the fusion summon. It doesn't specify that you have to banish the dimensional dragons to summon Zark. So long as the copies of them are banished, Zark still has its effects. Anyway, now for the extra deck, just like last time, I actually dumbed down Zark, so I run 1 copy of Supreme King Zark. When this card hits the board, it's pretty much a nuke. It destroys everything, can't be targeted or destroyed by card effects. And if it happens to destroy a monster by battle and deal damage, you can summon another Supreme King Dragon monster to join it on the board. And if this card is in the Pendulum Zone, negates your opponent cannot activate the effects of Fusion, Synchro, and Xyz. And once per turn, when they add cards from deck to hand, aside from drawing, of course, Zark can destroy them. So say if they play Tactics, draw 2 cards. Zark's effect goes up, destroying both of those cards. Not one, both. Next up, Star and Venom Fusion Dragon. Honestly, it's just in here to summon Zark. Next up, Odd Eyes Vortex Dragon. This is our Omni Negate of the deck. I'll explain how to bring this out later. Those are the fusions. For the Xyz, just like Venom, I run Dark Rebellion Xyz Dragon. For those interesting matchups such as Tears, I run Abyss Dweller. For those strategies where I don't really have any plays, they'll summon and pray Baguska. And then finally, this is the card you want to try to summon out at first turn. Odd Eyes Absolute Dragon. After you summon this card out, you have to immediately link summon, because when this card leaves field to grave, you can special summon an Odd Eyes monster from your extra deck. So that's how you summon Odd Eyes Vortex Dragon, the Omni Negate. For Synchros, I run Crystal Clear Wing Synchro Dragon. Honestly, I've actually summoned this before. I'm not going to lie to you. Next up, with Harmonizing, I run Borderload Savage Dragon and Baron de Fleur. Baron de Fleur is the one you want to summon off most. So when you summon Baron, when you see an opportunity, use the effect to destroy a Double Iris Magician to search the graph cards. And finally, this is the card. The next card is the one you want to summon off a Lightworm's ability, where you immediately Synchro and Xyz summon. Supreme King Dragon Clearwing. When this card is summoned, it basically nukes your opponent's entire monster board. Their back row is fine, but every one of the monsters are going bye-bye. And its other effect, if this card battles, it automatically destroys the monster and inflicts damage to the opponent equal to their monster's attack. Next up, the Links. 1. Beyond the Pendulum. This card, when Link summoned, lets you pay 1200 life points, search out any Pendulum monster in your deck. And then, until you Pendulum Summon, after this effect resolves, until you Pendulum Summon, all your Pendulum Zone's effects are negated, and so are the face-up monster effects. So, after that, you just want to Pendulum Summon as soon as possible. And if you Pendulum Summon 2 zones this card points to with 2 monsters with different levels, you can destroy 2 cards on the field. Next, you got Exceed the Pendulum. When this card is Link summoned, it allows you to take a face-up Pendulum monster and add it back to your hand. And it allows you to special summon a Pendulum monster from your hand or graveyard, so long as its level is in between the scales. So it's kind of like Pendulum Summon, just different. Next, I play Selena. This is just a Link client, but mostly, to be honest, you Link summon this using this card and one other card. Usually, you want to summon this off of these 2. So that way you get the Omni Negate, and you get this, bring back the one of the Magicians for the Zark Trap. And finally, 1 Appaloosa for the Monster Negates. Anyway, that was tonight's deck profile. Tonight, I say that because it's like almost 7. Anyway, I hope you guys liked, enjoyed. Leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys next time. Later!